Alright, settle in, because today we're diving headfirst into the wild, unbelievable stories behind some of history's most iconic military aircraft. You know, the kind of tales that make you scratch your head and ask, wait, they actually did that? Take the SR-71 Blackbird, for instance. This marvel of engineering was actually built to leak fuel so badly that ground crews affectionately, or maybe exasperatedly, nicknamed it the 200 million drip. And honestly, that's probably the least weird thing about it. It's easy to look at these legendary warbirds and just see their sleek lines or formidable power, but peel back the skin, and you'll find a world of ingenious, often counterintuitive, and sometimes downright bizarre design choices, unexpected missions, and incredible feats that never quite made it into your high school history books. We're talking about the kind of secrets that redefine what we thought was possible in the skies, pushing the boundaries of physics and human ingenuity. Today we're counting down 7 legendary warplanes whose most outrageous secrets and mind-bending innovations will leave you utterly stunned. From wings that defied conventional wisdom to bombers that simply refused to die, and fighters born from desperation, these machines aren't just pieces of history. They're testaments to human brilliance under pressure. Get ready, because what you're about to hear will definitely surprise you. Section 1. Spitfire, the wing that broke math. When you picture Britain's most beloved fighter, the Supermarine Spitfire, what comes to mind? Probably its elegant flowing lines, right? That distinctive, almost artistic elliptical wing. It just looks fast, beautiful, and perfectly balanced. But here's the kicker. Those elliptical wings weren't chosen for aesthetics. Not primarily, anyway. While they certainly added to its iconic silhouette, their true purpose was a masterclass in aerodynamic trickery, a design choice so clever it practically broke the rules of conventional math at the time. In the desperate days leading up to and during the Battle of Britain, every single mile per hour, every fraction of a second in a turn, could mean the difference between victory and defeat. The Spitfire's heart was the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, a powerful beast, but in the early days it still had its limitations. Designers led by the brilliant R.J. Mitchell needed to squeeze every last bit of performance out of it. To achieve high speeds, they needed the thinnest possible wing cross-section to reduce drag. A standard straight wing, especially a thin one, has a nasty habit of stalling at the wingtips first, particularly during high-speed maneuvers. When a wingtip stalls, it abruptly loses lift, often sending the aircraft into a terrifying, uncontrolled snap roll, a one-way ticket to a fiery demise for an unsuspecting pilot. Mitchell's team, however, pulled off an aerodynamic magic trick. The elliptical wing, with its continuously varying chord and thickness, was designed to distribute lift much more evenly across the entire span. This ingenious shape tricks the airflow into peeling off the wing root first, rather than the tips. What does that mean for a pilot? Instead of a sudden, deadly snap roll, the pilot gets a polite, shuddering warning, a buffet, as the stall begins closer to the fuselage. This gave them precious moments to correct their flight path, a subtle but life-saving advantage in the chaos of a dogfight. But the real kicker? That single elegant curve added an astounding 34 miles per hour to the Spitfire's top speed without touching the engine itself. Think about that for a second. Without any more horsepower, just by perfecting the wing shape, they made a fighter significantly faster. To put that in perspective, in 1940, a Spitfire could now outturn a German Bf-109 at 300 mph while using less horsepower than a modern family SUV. It wasn't just an advantage, it was a game-changer. This superior maneuverability and speed at crucial altitudes allowed Spitfire pilots to dominate the skies. The Royal Air Force understood the profound implications of this design. They kept the exact formula, the intricate mathematical secrets behind that elliptical wing, under wraps, classified until 1946, a full 6 years after the Battle of Britain had been decisively won. That wing wasn't just beautiful. It was a strategic weapon, a silent guardian that helped save a nation. It remains a global symbol of British defiance and resilience, often called the airplane that saved the world. Section 2. B-17, the bomber that refused to die. If you ever talked to the air crews who flew them, they'd tell you the B-17 Flying Fortress had a soul. They swore it, and frankly the numbers and the sheer audacity of its survival stories back them up completely. This wasn't just a machine. It was a stubborn, defiant beast that consistently brought its boys home against impossible odds. Imagine a bomber so tough, so resilient, that it became a legend in its own time for simply refusing to succumb to enemy fire. One of the most famous tales is that of All-American, a B-17 that returned from a mission with its tail section, nearly sliced off by a mid-air collision with a German fighter. I mean, nearly sliced off. The tail gunner, Staff Sergeant Darrell R. Cole, stayed at his post, exposed to the freezing slipstream and the terrifying sight of open sky behind him, calling out enemy fighters on the radio, while literally holding the fuselage together with his intercom cable. Just picture that for a moment. A man in the middle of a war zone clinging to life and limb, actively contributing to his crew's survival as his aircraft disintegrates around him. It sounds like something out of a Hollywood movie, but it was real, and All-American made it back. A testament to the incredible bravery of its crew and the unbelievable robustness of its design. So what was Boeing's secret sauce? How did they build such an indestructible warhorse? It wasn't some exotic new alloy or stealth technology. It was, surprisingly, rivets. Lots and lots of rivets. Instead of welding large sections of the airframe, which can create continuous stress lines where cracks can propagate catastrophically, Boeing engineers opted for an astonishing 600,000 rivets per airframe. This seemingly simple choice created a segmented yet incredibly strong structure. When a bullet or flak round tore through the skin, the damage tended to stop at the next rivet hole, preventing cracks from spreading across the entire structure. It was a brilliant low-tech solution to a high-stakes problem. The result was a bomber that could absorb an unbelievable amount of punishment. Stories abound of B-17s returning to base with gaping holes, half an engine missing, entire control surfaces shredded, and still, they flew. They could soak up literally 1,000 bullet holes and still manage to bring 10 men home, across 800 miles of ocean, often through some of the most heavily defended airspace in the world. These long-range missions over Europe were grueling. Crews needed oxygen masks above 10,000 feet, just to survive the thin air, and electrically heated suits to prevent freezing in the unpressurized cabins, technology that wouldn't reach civilian airliners for another 20 years. The B-17 didn't just bomb targets. It defied death mission after mission, becoming an enduring symbol of American aircrew bravery and sacrifice. Section 3. F-4U Corsair. The Whistling Death. Just look at the F-4U Corsair. Those distinctive inverted gull wings. They look like a styling gimmick, something designed purely for visual flair, don't they? Like a muscle car with a souped-up spoiler. But like so many things in aircraft design, especially in wartime, form followed function in the most ingenious way. You see, the Corsair housed an absolute monster of an engine. The massive Pratt & Whitney R2800 double wasp radial. To effectively harness its incredible power, this engine needed an equally massive propeller, a colossal 13-foot diameter blade to chew through the thick, unforgiving air of the Pacific theater. Now here's the problem. If you mount such a huge propeller on a conventional straight wing, you need incredibly long landing gear struts to provide enough ground clearance. And long landing gear, especially on the pitching rolling deck of an aircraft carrier, is a recipe for disaster. Those tall, spindly struts would snap like twigs under the impact of a carrier landing, rendering the aircraft useless. So what did the engineers do? They didn't shrink the propeller, and they certainly weren't going to compromise on engine power. Instead, they literally kinked the wings. The inverted gull wing design allowed them to shorten the landing gear struts significantly, tucking them neatly into the lowest point of the gull dip. This wasn't just a structural fix. It was an aerodynamic bonus too, contributing to an extra 30 knots of top speed by reducing drag at the wing root. But the Corsair had another, more sinister surprise up its sleeve, or rather, in its wing. Japanese pilots learned to dread a particular sound in the skies over the Pacific. It was a banshee scream, a high-pitched, terrifying whistle that heralded the arrival of the Corsair in a dive. This wasn't some intentional psychological warfare tactic. It was the sound of air rushing at incredible speeds through the aircraft's wing root oil coolers. To the Japanese, it sounded like the wail of a malevolent spirit, and they quickly gave the Corsair its chilling nickname, Whistling Death. If they heard that sound, they knew they were in deep trouble, and often, they simply broke off engagement and fled. The psychological impact was immense. Here's a fun fact, though. Despite its eventual legendary status, the early models of the Corsair were a handful. They bounced so badly on carrier landings. a phenomenon pilots called the bounciness, that the U.S. Navy, in a moment of frustration, actually kicked the Corsair ashore. They deemed it too difficult and dangerous for carrier operations. But the Marines? They loved it. They had plenty of island runways, so the carrier issues weren't a problem. From these land bases, Marine pilots racked up an astonishing 11.1 kill ratio against Japanese aircraft. It wasn't until the British, who also received Corsairs, figured out a simple throttle technique to smooth out the landings, that the Navy finally welcomed the bird back onto its carriers. But by then it was almost too late. The legend of the Whistling Death was already carved in coral and etched into the annals of Pacific warfare. The Corsair's distinctive design and combat record have given it a lasting cultural presence. Section 4, P-51 Mustang, the 117-day wonder. In the darkest days of World War II, as Britain stood beleaguered and desperately short of modern fighters, they turned to the United States with an urgent plea. They needed a new fighter, and they needed it yesterday. North American Aviation responded with an audacious promise. They would deliver a brand new aircraft in just 120 days. And here's the truly astonishing part. They delivered 3 days early. The P-51 Mustang, a true marvel of rapid engineering and industrial might, was born. But how did they achieve such an unprecedented feat? The trick and the first major surprise of the Mustang was a somewhat unorthodox design philosophy. They designed the airframe before they had a definitive engine. They focused on creating an aerodynamically superb airframe, knowing that a good airframe could adapt to different power plants. Initially, the Mustang was fitted with an American Allison engine. It was a decent engine, but it had a significant Achilles heel. Its performance choked at high altitudes, precisely where Allied bombers needed escort the most. This meant the early Mustangs were relegated to ground attack and reconnaissance roles. Good planes, but not the long-range, high-altitude fighter the Allies desperately needed. Then came the second, truly transformative surprise. British engineers, recognizing the Mustang's inherent aerodynamic excellence, suggested a radical idea. Why not try bolting in a Rolls-Royce Merlin engine? The Merlin, the same engine that powered the Spitfire, was a supercharged powerhouse renowned for its exceptional high-altitude performance. North American engineers took the challenge. They literally unscrewed the Allison engine from the nose of a Mustang, bolted in a Merlin, and almost overnight, a mediocre recon plane was transformed into an absolute aerial predator. That simple engine swap, a testament to the foresight of the adaptable airframe design, instantly added a staggering 100 miles per hour to its top speed and dramatically improved its high-altitude capabilities. This wasn't just an upgrade. It was a revolution. Suddenly, the Allies had an escort fighter that could follow B-17s and other bombers all the way to Berlin and back, deep into enemy territory, protecting them from the Luftwaffe. Before the Mustang, bomber crews faced harrowing, unescorted flights for much of their mission, often suffering catastrophic losses. The Mustang changed everything. It demoralized German fighter pilots who could no longer pick off bombers with impunity. Its impact was immediate and devastating to the enemy. In 1944 alone, Mustangs were credited with shooting down over 5,000 Luftwaffe aircraft in just 6 months, a number that exceeded the entire German aircraft production for that year. The P-51 Mustang quickly became a symbol of American industrial capability and innovation during World War II, securing air superiority for the Allies. After the war, surplus P-51s dominated air racing for a decade, proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that you simply can't keep a good airframe down. Section 5. De Havilland Mosquito. The wooden missile. Now, prepare for a concept that sounds utterly insane, especially in the context of a global war where metal was gold. Imagine building a high-performance bomber out of balsa wood and plywood. Not just any bomber, mind you, but one that could outrun the legendary Spitfire of 1943. Sounds like a joke, right? Well, that's precisely what the British did with the de Havilland Mosquito, affectionately known as the Wooden Wonder. This isn't some quaint historical footnote. This was a revolutionary design born out of necessity and brilliant engineering. During WPU, vital metals like aluminum and steel were heavily rationed for other critical war production. De Havilland's designers, led by Geoffrey de Havilland himself, looked for alternatives and found their answer in wood. But this wasn't just slapping some planks together. They borrowed techniques from an unlikely source: piano factories and furniture makers. The Mosquito was essentially glued together with millions of tiny screws and high-strength adhesives, using furniture-grade birch and spruce. The construction involved layers of balsa wood sandwiched between ultra-thin birch veneers, creating a lightweight yet incredibly strong composite structure. The result was astonishing. This wooden missile was a 400-meter airframe that, incredibly, weighed less than a modern pickup truck. Its lightweight construction, combined with two powerful Rolls-Royce Merlin engines, gave it unparalleled speed and agility for a bomber. It was so fast, in fact, that it often didn't need defensive armament. Its best defense was its sheer speed. German fighters like the formidable FW-190 and Bf-109 had to dive from altitudes as high as 30,000 feet just to stand a chance of catching it. But by the time they leveled out from their dive, the Mosquito was often long gone, a blur on the horizon. The Mosquito was incredibly versatile, performing as a bomber, a fighter, and a reconnaissance aircraft. Its RAF photo reconnaissance variants, unburdened by bombs or guns, were particularly audacious. They could photograph targets deep inside Germany like Berlin at noon, and still be back in London for tea. This wasn't just a matter of speed. It was a psychological blow. The Germans knew they couldn't intercept them. Hermann Göring, the head of the Luftwaffe, was reportedly so enraged and frustrated by this wooden phantom that he offered a bounty for everyone shot down, famously calling it the wooden nuisance that turns my hair gray. The de Havilland Mosquito, with its unique wooden construction and unparalleled speed, remains a powerful testament to innovative wartime engineering, proving that sometimes the most unconventional solutions are the most effective. Mid-roll CTA. Are you as blown away as we are by these incredible, often overlooked aviation secrets? If you're learning things your history teacher definitely never mentioned, then you absolutely need to tap that subscribe button and ring the bell. We've got so many more surprising stories and hidden histories coming your way, and you won't want to miss a single one. Section 6. Fokker Dr. I, the triplane that shouldn't fly. When you think of World War I aviation, one image instantly springs to mind: the iconic Fokker Dr. I triplane. Soaring through the skies, often painted a brilliant red, it looks like something out of a fantastical adventure, with its three wings stacked almost comically high. And on the surface, three wings look like absolute overkill, right? Like someone just added more for the sake of it. But in the nascent, often counterintuitive world of 1917 aerodynamics, physics actually had a surprising answer. Three wings were the sweet spot. In an era of relatively underpowered rotary engines, engineers were constantly grappling with the trade-off between lift and drag. Each wing adds lift, which is great for getting off the ground and staying airborne, but it also adds drag, which slows you down. Finding the optimal balance was critical. For the low speeds and engine power of the time, it turned out that three wings, closely spaced, provided an incredible amount of lift in a compact airframe, allowing for very short wingspans. This tight stacking minimized the induced drag that would normally plague a larger biplane wing, making the triplane surprisingly efficient for its intended purpose. But the real magic of the Dr. I wasn't just in its lift. It was in its unparalleled maneuverability. The design offered an astonishing level of control. The top wing, being so high, gave instant turn rate, allowing for incredibly tight circles. The middle wing added a crucial layer of stability, making the aircraft predictable despite its radical design. And the bottom wing, positioned low, provided exceptional snap roll control. This combination meant that in the hands of a skilled pilot, the Dr. I was a dizzying, deadly dance partner in a dogfight. It was this exceptional agility that allowed the legendary Manfred von Richthofen, the Red Baron, to score an astonishing 80 kills. He wasn't just a great shot. He exploited the Dr. I's unique capabilities to their fullest. He could famously hang on the propeller, almost stalling the aircraft to a near standstill, then yank full rudder and spin a full 270 degrees in under 3 seconds. This was a maneuver no conventional biplane could possibly match. It allowed him to quickly get on an enemy's tail, seemingly appearing out of nowhere, or to escape a dangerous situation in an instant. The triplane flew for only 8 months in active service, a remarkably short operational life. After the Red Baron was tragically killed, partly due to the Dr. I's limitations at higher speeds and altitudes, and concerns over structural integrity emerged, the German High Command ordered all Dr. I's grounded for fear of morale collapse among their pilots. Yet despite its brief tenure, its distinctive silhouette is still the universal enduring symbol of the Great War in the air. The Fokker Dr. I, forever linked to its most famous pilot, stands as a testament to radical design choices and the extraordinary skill of the aces who flew them, cementing its place as a German aviation symbol and a legend in its own right. Section 7, SR-71. Blackbird, the leak on purpose. Remember that opening tease about the SR-71 Blackbird leaking fuel? Well, let's dive back into that, because it's one of the most mind-bending, counterintuitive design choices in aviation history. The Blackbird, a reconnaissance aircraft built for unimaginable speeds and altitudes, wasn't just a little leaky. It was built to drip fuel like a sieve while sitting on the tarmac. At rest, its fuselage was constructed in loose segments, deliberately designed with gaps between the titanium panels. Fuel would literally drip through these openings onto the ground, earning it that $200 million drip nickname from bewildered ground crews. Now, why on earth would engineers design a multi-million-dollar aircraft to intentionally leak its incredibly expensive, specialized fuel? The answer lies in the extreme conditions it was designed to operate under. The SR-71 was built to fly at sustained speeds over Mach 3, that's 3 times the speed of sound, and at altitudes exceeding 85,000 feet. At these speeds, air friction generates immense heat. The airframe, made primarily of titanium, a material chosen for its strength at high temperatures, would heat up and expand significantly. At Mach 2.6, the airframe would swell by as much as 3 inches in length. Those deliberate gaps between the panels? They were designed to close up perfectly under that thermal expansion, sealing the fuel tanks tight as a drum. Engineers called it thermal closure. Pilots, with their characteristic dry wit, simply called it free gas until you light the afterburners. They'd take off with partially filled tanks, knowing the leaks would stop once they hit operating speed and altitude, and then refuel in the air. The Blackbird's performance was and still is unparalleled. This aircraft, designed in the 1950s using slide rule math, could outrun anything thrown at it. On one record-setting flight from London to Los Angeles, the SR-71 didn't just cross the Atlantic. It refueled twice in mid-air and still beat the Concorde, a supersonic passenger jet, by a staggering 3 hours. Think about that. A military spy plane designed decades earlier was significantly faster than the pinnacle of commercial supersonic travel. Its speed and altitude made it virtually untouchable. Over its long career, more than 4,000 surface-to-air missiles were fired at SR-71s. The number of hits? 0. Not a single Blackbird was ever shot down by enemy action. When a missile was detected, the standard evasive maneuver wasn't a sharp turn or a dive. It was simply to accelerate and climb, leaving the missile literally in its dust. The SR-71 Blackbird was officially retired from service in 1998, a decision that many still lament. And here's the truly astonishing, almost unsettling fact. In the quarter-century since its retirement, nobody has built anything faster. The leak-on-purpose Blackbird remains the fastest air-breathing manned aircraft ever built, a testament to a bygone era of audacious, boundary-pushing engineering that still leaves us in awe. Conclusion. So, the next time you catch a glimpse of a Spitfire gracefully gliding through the air, perhaps at an air show, and you notice that unmistakable elegant wing curve, or if you ever hear the distinctive, haunting whistle associated with the F-4U Corsair, remember this: the real magic, the true genius, isn't just in the metal, wood, or titanium itself. It's in the brilliant, often audacious, and sometimes downright bizarre loopholes that engineers exploited. It's in the unexpected solutions to impossible problems, the sheer ingenuity that made these incredible machines take wing against all odds. These aren't just old aircraft. They're stories of human innovation, of pushing boundaries, and of creating legends in the sky. Each one represents a unique chapter in aviation history, filled with surprises that continue to captivate us. Which of these incredible aircraft secrets blew your mind the most? Was it the Spitfire's mathematical wing, the B-17's stubborn refusal to die, the Corsair's whistling warning, the Mustang's rapid transformation, the Mosquito's wooden speed, the Dr. I's triplane agility, or the Blackbird's intentional leaks? Drop your pick in the comments below. And if you're hungry for another list of hidden aviation stories and engineering marvels, smash that like button so we know to keep digging for more incredible tales.